Look around you. Not with your eyes, but with your soul. Look beyond the flashing screens and dopamine traps. Look past the neon signs and hollow grins. Do you see it yet? The invisible leash around your neck. The golden cage wrapped in Netflix and delivery apps. A system that doesn't shackle your body, but chains your will. The modern world does not need to enslave you with iron bars or handcuffs. It has found something far more efficient. Pleasure. Synthetic, instant, low-cost pleasure. Micro doses of distraction. Emotional fast food. You think you're choosing it, but you are not. It is choosing you. Every click, every swipe, every empty calorie of validation you consume feeds the machine. Not your soul, not your strength, not your future. You are not free. You are being sedated. Every system, every ad, every algorithm has one mission: keep you comfortable enough not to revolt, entertained enough not to think, and distracted enough never to awaken. They want you sedated, content, tamed, addicted to comfort. Because a man addicted to comfort will never change the world. He won't even change himself. And what do they sell you to keep you asleep? Pleasure. Streaming platforms that autoplay your next 48 hours. Sugar-laced poison disguised as breakfast. Pornography dressed as intimacy. Shopping carts filled with things you don't need to impress people you don't even like. And you smile. You call it self-care. But deep down, you know it's not self-care, it's self-sabotage. You are not weak, but your attention has been hijacked. You are not lazy, but your spirit has been drugged. You were not born to be sedated. You were born to be dangerous, focused, relentless, awake. But no one profits from a man who is truly awake. No one gets rich off your inner peace, your discipline, your spiritual clarity. They can't market to your hunger for truth. They can't monetize your solitude, your stoicism, your self-mastery. So instead, they sell you convenience. They sell you fake gods in shiny packaging. They sell you comfort laced with spiritual decay. And they do it so well that you will defend your own captors. You will say, but I deserve to relax. I've worked hard. It's just one more episode. And while you numb yourself, your dreams rot in the dark. Because here is the truth no one wants to say. The more pleasure you chase, the poorer you become. Not just financially, though that happens too, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. You become poor in attention, poor in discipline, poor in meaning. You trade the kingdom of your higher self for a few likes, a few fries, a few orgasms. It is the most dangerous kind of poverty, the kind you can't see because you think you're rich. You think you're winning because you have the newest iPhone, because your social media glows with curated highlights, because your fridge is full and your bills are paid. But what about your soul? Can you sit in silence for an hour without reaching for your phone? Can you walk through a storm without collapsing into distraction? Can you say no to short-term pleasure for long-term power? Most can't, because pleasure is no longer a luxury, it is a leash. And the stronger your attachment to it, the easier you are to control. You think you're making choices, but the choices were made for you, designed, optimized, tested by labs of behavioral scientists who understand your weaknesses better than you do. You are not fighting fair. This is not a war of willpower. It is spiritual warfare disguised as lifestyle. And here's the most terrifying part. The system doesn't want to kill you. It wants you alive, just docile, just broken enough to comply, but whole enough to function. It wants your energy, your eyes, your hours. It wants your soul in monthly installments. Because if you ever truly woke up, if you ever stopped numbing yourself with small pleasures, you would be unstoppable. You would remember who you are. You would remember that strength is built in silence, not scrolling. That intimacy is born of presence, not pixels. That fulfillment comes from effort, not ease. You would remember that meaning is not microwaved, it is forged in fire. But fire requires friction, and the modern world has removed all friction. That's the trap. No friction, no fire, no power. And so you are warm, but never burning. Alive, but not living. Pleasured, but not fulfilled. And this is a great tragedy of our time. We have mistaken stimulation for satisfaction, and we are starving on a full stomach. You were not meant to live like this, trained like a lab rat to chase sugar pellets. You were born for something harder, something holier. The road back is not easy. It is a violent divorce from convenience, a war against everything that makes you soft. You will have to learn to sit in boredom, to face the silence, to starve the part of you that wants to be entertained. You will have to become dangerous again, not with fists or weapons, but with attention, with focus, with discipline, with a soul that cannot be seduced. You must become the kind of person who terrifies systems built on pleasure, the kind of person who can't be bought, distracted, or entertained into submission. A person who chooses meaning over ease, solitude over noise, growth over gratification. You must become a rebel in a world addicted to pleasure, because here's the final truth. Your liberation will not come from more pleasure. It will come from walking away from the easy high, from the emotional junk food, from the seductive lie that happiness is the same as peace. Happiness is fleeting. It comes and goes with the weather. But peace is built with suffering, with discipline, with truth. And that peace cannot be sold to you. You must become the one who no longer needs what they're selling. Then, and only then, you will be free. Because freedom is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to choose your pain. To say, I will suffer now by my own hand for a purpose of my own design instead of waiting for life to hand you meaningless suffering later. Comfort is a loan with cruel interest. But discipline is a slow investment with eternal returns. While the world gorges itself on stimulation, you will be fasting. While others drown in noise, you will enter silence. While they run from their shadows, you will face yours and emerge forged. This is not romantic. This is not poetic rebellion. This is war. And your enemy is not a man, not a company, not a government. Your enemy is a seduction of numbness, the convenience of never having to feel deeply, choose wisely, or act courageously. Your enemy is within hand. It speaks with your voice. It tells you to relax, to treat yourself, to avoid the mirror of your own life. And every time you listen to that voice, you give up a piece of yourself. And slowly, without knowing, you become poor. Not just in wealth, but in spirit, in awareness, in presence, in power. So many are walking ghosts, smiling, scrolling, sleeping through their one shot at being fully alive. Their lives reduced to cycles of craving and sedation, wanting something more, but never stepping into the furnace that creates it. But just a few will wake up. Some will realize that the pleasure sold to them is not pleasure at all. It is distraction dressed as joy, sedation dressed as self-love, a leash disguised as freedom. Some will burn the script. They will walk away from the false gods of comfort and walk toward the altar of effort, of presence, of hunger. These people are rare, but when you meet one, you know it. You feel it in their silence, in their gaze, in their refusal to chase what everyone else chases. These are the ones who build legacies while the rest watch episodes. The ones who forge peace in suffering while the world escapes into noise. The ones who grow rich in spirit while the world drowns in bankrupt pleasures. You can become one of them, but you must stop negotiating with your weakness. You must say no more. No more to numbing your truth with fake food and fake friends and fake love. No more to apps that steal your hours and give you nothing in return. No more to goals that aren't yours, careers that drain your soul, habits that rot your future. Because the world will keep selling you pleasure until you are broke in every dimension of your being. And here's the secret they never want you to learn. You don't need most of what they offer. You don't need another show, another device, another snack, another scroll, another fix. What you need is already inside you, but it has been buried under years of addiction to the easy path. So dig. Dig with tears if you must. With silence, with fasting, with solitude. Let your life become a monastery, not a marketplace. Return to the fire. Return to the pain that cleanses, to the boredom that awakens, to the emptiness that is not a void but a womb, a place of becoming, a place of rebirth. Because only in that emptiness can something new be born. Not more dopamine, not more content, but more you. The deeper you go, the more you will see. Most of the world is asleep. Not because they are stupid, but because they are sedated. And sedation is sweet. Sedation is celebrated. But sedation is the death of the soul. So if you feel restless, good. If you feel disgusted, good. If you feel like screaming into the void, excellent. It means you're waking up. It means you're starting to see the machine for what it is. And now the question becomes, will you unplug? Will you choose a life that is hard but holy? Will you trade the illusion of pleasure for the truth of purpose? Because in the end, that's all that matters. Not what you owned, not how much you loved, but whether you live with fire in your eyes and silence in your soul. Whether you became rich not in things, but in time, in peace, in presence, in power. That is true, well. And the world can never sell it to you, because it is born only in the furnace of your own transformation. So burn every illusion they sold you. Burn the belief that you need constant comfort to be alive. Burn the myth that ease is the goal. Burn the fantasy that fulfillment can be bought, that joy can be shipped overnight, that meaning comes wrapped in plastic. Because you are not here to be entertained. You are here to evolve. The modern world has built an empire on the backs of your forgotten potential. It feeds on your fear of silence, your need for approval, your weakness for pleasure. And as long as you stay distracted, you will never notice the chains, not the digital ones, not the emotional ones, not the spiritual ones. This is not just about breaking free from consumerism. It's about reclaiming your will, your inner sovereignty, your spiritual spine. The one thing no one can sell you and no one can steal from you unless you give it away. And most already have. They have traded the throne of their inner kingdom for a seat in the arena, entertained, sedated, applauding their own decline. But not you. You are here because something in you refuses to die quietly. Something in you is still wild, still untamed, still hungry for truth, no matter how bitter it tastes. And truth, my friend, is bitter because it tells you the life you've been living is too small for your soul. It tells you that your comfort is killing your greatness. It tells you that every second you spend numbing your potential, you rob yourself of the man or woman you were born to become. And that hurts. It should. Transformation does not begin with inspiration. It begins with disgust. You must get so sick of the lies, so tired of the empty highs, so heartbroken by your own avoidance, that you finally say, I'm done. Not with anger, but with clarity. Because when you finally see how deep the game goes, you stop playing. You stop trading your time for crumbs. You stop worshiping pleasure as if it is salvation. You stop pretending that stimulation is life. And you begin again. You reason not quickly, not dramatically, but steadily, quietly. In the early hours, in the forgotten places, in the rituals no one sees. You rise by choosing the cold shower over the warm lie. You rise by sitting in silence instead of swiping through noise. You rise by becoming the kind of person who keeps promises to themselves. This is the slow, painful, magnificent road of becoming. And along the way, the world will mock you. They'll say you're too serious, too intense, too obsessed. They will call your discipline toxic, your solitude weird, your peace boring. Let them, because while they chase the next dopamine hit, you will be building something eternal. Not a brand, not a business, a self that does not kneel to impulse, a self that does not shrink in silence, a self that does not run from discomfort but feeds on it. Because discomfort is the gym of the soul. It is where your mind gets strong, where your spirit finds clarity, where your future is carved on, unglamorous decision at a time. And when you live like this truly life, you will become something the system cannot touch. You will become sovereign. And sovereign souls are dangerous, not because they hurt others, but because they cannot be manipulated, because they see through the game, because they cannot be bought with pleasure, nor controlled by pain. They walk a different path, the path of those who have faced the abyss and did not blink. You must become one of them, not for validation, not for applause, but because the world is starving for examples of real power, quiet, grounded, unshakable power. And that power is not built in a moment. It is built in thousands of tiny wars. Wars against the snooze button. Wars against the scroll. Wars against the voice that says, just this once. And each time you win, something in you grows. Something old dies. Something real is born. That is how you escape the prison of pleasure. Not by running, but by replacing. Replace your distractions with disciplines. Replace your cravings with commitments. Replace your numbing habits with sacred rituals. And slowly, painfully, gloriously, you will change. You will no longer be ruled by what feels good. You will be ruled by what builds you. And the man or woman who lives like that is free. Not because life gets easier, but because you become harder, clearer, sharper, wiser. And when the world sees you walking in peace, while they drown in pleasure they won't understand, they'll call it luck, or genetics, or mystery. But you will know. You will know that you paid for your peace, that you bled for your discipline, that you chose this perthievery day against the pull of a world that wants you soft, distracted, obedient. You will know that while they were buying pleasure, you were earning freedom. And that, my friend, is the rarest kind of wealth. And in this wealth, no banker can tax you. No politician can regulate you. No company can market it back to you. Because it was not handed down, it was carved from your own bones. It is a wealth of self-command. The kind of wealth that lives in your breath, your posture, your silence. The wealth of a man who owns his time. The wealth of a woman who owns her choices. The wealth of a spirit that bows to no one and not even to desire itself. Because true power is not in getting what you want. It is in no longer being ruled by it. And this is what the world fears. They do not fear your rage. They do not fear your rebellion. They do not fear your loud protests or your tweets or your cries for justice. They fear your clarity. They fear a man who does not flinch in silence. They fear a woman who does not chase attention. They fear the one who no longer feeds the machine. Because the moment you stop needing what they're selling, you become ungovernable. Not in anarchy, in sovereignty, not in noise, in stillness, not in chaos, in self-possession. That is why the system teaches you to seek your identity in things, titles, filters, lifestyles. It knows that once you root yourself in the internal, its power over you collapses. And this is your task now, to turn inward, not in retreat, but in reclamation. Reclaim your mornings from the scroll, reclaim your evenings from the binge, reclaim your mind from the algorithm, reclaim your soul from the quick fix. This is not a hack, this is a resurrection. And resurrection is violent. Not to others, but to every lie you've lived under. You will have to kill your old self. Not once, but daily. The self that needs to be seen, the self that needs to be liked, the self that fears missing out, the self that cannot sit alone in a room without stimulation. Slay that self, and from its ashes, build the version of you that does not run. The version of you that can fast not just from food, but from validation, from attention, from noise, because it is in the fast that the real feast begins. And when you begin to taste the richness of your own presence, you will never go back. You will look at the pleasures you once craved and see them for what they always were, bribes. Bribes to keep you small. The late night binge, a bribe. The endless scroll, a bribe. The toxic relationship you won't let go of, a bribe. All of them saying, don't grow, don't change, don't look too closely. But now you see. And once you see, you cannot unsee. You begin to feel a quiet revolt in your bones, a sacred rage, a primal memory that says, I was not made for sedation. I was made for sovereignty. And you walk differently. You stop explaining yourself. You stop arguing with the asleep. You stop waiting for the world to reward your awakening. You realize the reward is the awakening. The reward is walking into the storm of modern life with your head high and your soul intact. The reward is refusing the poison not because you hate yourself, but because you love yourself too deeply to settle for crumbs. You choose silence over noise, purpose over pleasure, fire over numbness. And in doing so, you light a torch in the darkness. Not just for you, but for others. Because the world doesn't need more pleasure. It needs more light. And light is born in suffering, in self-discipline, in the terrifying silence of inner work. So let them laugh, let them mock, let them scroll and scroll until their spirits are dust. You will build in the dark. And one day, without needing applause, without asking for permission, you will emerge. Unrecognizable. Not because your body changed, but because your aura did. You will walk into rooms and shift atmospheres. You will speak less, but carry more. You will no longer need to be heard because your presence will speak for you. That is the reward of rejecting cheap pleasure, of going without, of fasting from the false. You become whole, and wholeness cannot be bought. It must be earned through pain, through silence, through fire. And when you earn it, nothing can touch you. So now the choice is yours. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, this world will keep selling. It will keep whispering that you need more comfort, more pleasure, more distractions, dressed up as destiny. But you have seen through the veil. You have touched the quiet truth beneath all the noise. That real power lives in the man who needs nothing from the world except the freedom to be himself. You do not need their validation. You do not need their rewards. You do not need to dance for likes or numb yourself with comfort. Because the moment you decide to stop participating in your own imprisonment, you become free. And this terrifying, sacred freedom is not for the faint of heart. It will demand everything from you. You will have to walk away from things that once defined you. You will have to bury old versions of yourself versions that clung to comfort like oxygen. You will have to suffer, you will have to burn. But what rises from those ashes is unshakable. A presence that doesn't flinch, a mind that doesn't crave, a spirit that cannot be owned. You become dangerous not to others, but to every system that profits from your ignorance. You become the glitch in the matrix, the one they can't manipulate, the one they can't seduce, the one who walked away from pleasure and built purpose. You become what they fear, a man or woman who remembers who they are. And from that remembering, you become a beaconaut by trying, but by being. You carry a different frequency, you speak a different language, not louder, truer. And those who are ready will feel it, because the world does not change when everyone gets loud. It changes when a few get clear. And clarity begins when you stop taking the poison, even if everyone else is drinking it like wine. So rise now, not because you're better, but because you're done being small. Walk away not in arrogance, but in honor. Say no not in anger, but in reverence for what your life could become. Let them have their noise, their fake pleasure, their artificial highs. You are walking into the storm barefoot and awake because you know freedom is not found in what you chase. It's found in what you're finally willing to leave behind. And when you leave it behind, when you walk into the silence and find yourself still breathing, still whole, still burning, you will know this is what it means to be alive. This is what it means to be free. So go, not to consume, not to escape, but to build. Build the kind of life that doesn't need sedation. Build the kind of mind that doesn't flinch. Build the kind of soul that no longer asks permission to rise. Because when you stop needing what they sell, they can no longer keep you poor. And that is the first day of your real life.